GSSSA Senior Boys National Championship, starting this Wednesday at 8 p.m. live on Cable 12.
A dramatic shootout at sea leads to the arrest of poachers. The accuracy of crime statistics once again being questioned. The opposition talks unemployment, plus public school teachers saying no to that. Those stories and a whole lot more coming up tonight. I'm Vonnie Toot, and NB12 starts now. Topping news tonight, new details have emerged about the arrest of 42 suspected Dominican poachers over the weekend. The all-male crew was brought to the Capitol this morning after what Royal Bahamas Defense Force officers call a hostile and aggressive high-speed chase on the high seas. Jasmine Bonamy has all the details.
Hey, yo chico, aquí. Hey.
One by one, the 42 men were offloaded onto the military base where Defense Force officers searched them. The men were arrested 75 miles off Andros after the Defense Force received several reports of smaller boats fishing around the Great Bahama Bank on Saturday afternoon. Once they arrived in the area, Lieutenant Commander Raymond King says they discovered 4 Dominican vessels. He says a team of 50 officers in 3 separate vessels attempted to apprehend the suspected Dominican poachers, but the 4 vessels scattered as they pursued. He adds that they focused on the Triton as it made its way towards the Cuban border, doing everything they could to escape, including dumping crew members as well as engine and boat parts. King says it was clear the poachers were desperate to escape.
The vessels took aggressive, evasive actions. They darkened their ships and proceeded at a high rate of speed towards the Cuban coast. And they totally ignored all instructions, i.e. the ship's illumination, radio communication, our phonetic flag, all means to instruct them to stop. They just simply ignored it. The vessel actually discarded debris, small vessels, engine parts, and even persons absconded by jumping overboard to try to divert the seaboat from trying to board the vessel. The vessel actually made an attempt to endanger the lives of the boarding team, and warning shots had to be fired from the small seaboat. And once they backed off from the larger platform, we then engaged also and had to fire off warning shots before the vessel made a move towards us.
After the tense standoff, King says officers intercepted the 70-foot fishing vessel. He added that boarding the vessel was also a challenge as the alleged poachers were not going down without a fight.
All means to instruct them to stop. They just simply ignored it, and the boarding was extremely hostile. But eventually, Trident, the one that was arrested only after concerted efforts.
Once the 42 poachers were apprehended by the RBDF officers, they were loaded onto this boat, the P-45, where they made their way into the Coral Harbor base just after 10 o'clock this morning. After they searched the Dominican vessel, they discovered the illegal catch on board, although officials had yet to determine the exact amount of fish, crawfish, and conch, according to King.
As we approached the vessel, we saw a few persons absconding from the vessel in smaller skiffs to rendezvous with the other 3 vessels that were able to evade us and move into Cuban's jurisdiction. So we have 42 persons. On board we found an undetermined, I'll say a large quantity of scale fish, lobster, conch, etc.
Also discovered aboard the ship was a loaded shotgun and spent casings, a sign, he says, of just how dangerous the situation was. At the Defense Force base this morning, the men were handed over to the Royal Bahamas Police Force and their catch was confiscated. They are expected in court later this week. This is the second major seizure on open waters in the last 2 months. In December, Defense Force officers arrested 50 Dominican poachers along the western side of the Great Bahama Bank in the area of Diamond Point. Authorities said 38,000 pounds of fish and crawfish were found on that vessel. The crew and captain were charged in a magistrate's court and found guilty of illegally poaching in Bahamian waters. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
And Defense Force officials say this latest apprehension is a direct result of tips from the Bahamian fishing community. King thanked the fishermen who alerted the Defense Force to poachers this weekend. However, he cautioned fishermen from approaching poachers, saying it's becoming increasingly dangerous even for Defense Force officers.
On behalf of the Commander of Defense Force, I would like to thank the fishing community for their support and their information, but also to advise the local fishermen not to engage these illegal poachers. The culture has changed, the character of the persons on board those vessels has changed, but to simply pass the information on to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force so we can manage that threat proportionately and appropriately. Unlike what we've experienced for the past decade and a half, apart from the unfortunate flamingo incident and the incident with the Honduran poachers, where we've enjoyed relatively passive and compliant boardings. The culture now has somewhat changed, where now they're more combative, they're more hostile, they're non-compliant, and you basically have to force those vessels to give to.
Over the past few months, Bahamian fishermen have voiced their concerns over poachers in Bahamian waters, insisting they are simply fed up. Glaring disparities between Princess Margaret Hospital records and police statistics coming under heavy scrutiny once again after a top official from Public Hospitals Authority confirmed to NB12 today that police are immediately contacted when all victims of violent crime are admitted to the Accidents and Emergencies Department. This comes days after PMH Accidents and Emergencies Director Dr. Dwayne Sands released statistics that show far more people were treated for gunshot wounds and rape last year than the figures provided by police.
It's about truth. It's about honesty. It's about integrity. That is what the Bahamian people deserve.
Despite Commissioner Greenslade's recent assertion that crime statistics provided by police and Princess Margaret Hospital's records will never be the same, Managing Director of Public Hospitals Authority Herbert Brown told NB12 today it is PMH and Ram Memorial Hospital's policy to immediately and consistently contact police in certain cases. That is, when people are brought in dead, if they sustained gunshot or stab wounds, when they claim to have been raped, or deaths within the A&E department. That's people who are brought in and resuscitated by doctors but eventually die. In fact, Director of A&E Dr. Dwayne Sands says, if anything, crime figures given by police should be much higher because PMH records don't include victims treated at Doctors Hospital or Rand Memorial Hospital in Grand Bahama.
The Royal Bahamas Police Force statistics ought to reflect the entire national experience. The Princess Margaret Hospital data apply only to patients seen at Princess Margaret Hospital. So we would expect that the police numbers would be more than the Princess Margaret Hospital information.
Last week, PMH records revealed there were 278 shootings last year, while police records claimed there were 197. That's a difference of 81 shootings. PMH also reported 147 rape cases. Police reported 104. According to hospital records, July and August were the bloodiest months of 2013, with 31 shootings in July and 43 in August. Dr. Sands says hospital records also call into question crime statistics, which state there were just 10 cases of attempted murder last year.
Certainly our penal code would seem to suggest that if you were shot or stabbed in the torso, that would be consistent with attempted murder. And so if the logs of the Princess Margaret Hospital now demonstrates not 5 or 10, but hundreds of injuries, and there's a discrepancy between that data.
He says it's important to find out why the discrepancy exists to ensure statistics accurately reflect the level of violent crime. Calls to Commissioner Greenslade today were not returned up to news time. But in an interview with the Nassau Guardian, he said, "If I am the commissioner with any credibility at all, and I really believe I do have, I have to be able to speak to a public and retain my credibility." Greenslade also indicated that he will not get involved in politics and added, "I am not interested in that. That is for politicians to deal with. Dr. Nottage is my minister whom I give the information to even before I go public out of courtesy, not obligation. He has no influence over me in changing anything." However, Dr. Sands insisted today he is not questioning Greenslade's credibility or making things political. He said he is simply speaking out as a healthcare professional.
Surprising, since there was certainly no intent to insult. I've said repeatedly that I have nothing but the greatest respect for the Commissioner of Police. I find him to be an honest and honorable man.
While the opposition leader is happy to see the national unemployment rate fall to 15.4% from 16.2%, he is concerned about the increase in unemployment among young people as well as the unemployment situation among the female population. F&M leader Dr. Hubert Minnis said those groups represent the future of the country.
Yes, it's showing slight decrease, but I'm very concerned about a particular matter. I'm concerned about the increase in the unemployment for the young people. It has gone up to 32.3%. The young people represent our future. Our future must be protected. I'm very concerned there. I'm also concerned with the unemployment rate going up for the female population.
Based on the survey, the overall unemployment rate for young people ages 15 to 24 is 32.3%. That's higher than the rate recorded in May. Back then, the Department of Statistics reported that unemployment among youth was 30.8%. Minnis says these latest statistics prove the PLP has failed to deliver its campaign promise of creating 10,000 new jobs.
This government don't care. This government don't care about you being employed. The young people are our future. The government is supposed to protect the new generation, and they're supposed to protect the future and advancement of the country. This government is not doing it.
Still to come on NB12, why the Bahamas Union of Teachers is saying no to VAT, so stay with us.